Hello, welcome back tuning into today's first video. We're doing the CFS 6 months look ahead today for December. Going to go 6 months ahead with the long range CFS V2 model. Now, of course, this is just for fun. It's not to be relied upon, particularly as we get sort of 4, 5, 6 months away. As I always say, the charts are there, so might as well have a look at them and see what the latest idea from the model is. But going ahead that far away with just one solitary model, with any model really, it's highly dubious. And I probably shouldn't be doing it, but I know a lot of you like to see what the model is showing at its extended range. So we'll have a look at the charts in a second. We'll start off with the 700 bit of our height anomalies, then we'll have a look at the corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with those pressure anomalies. But before I get on with that, just to say about the ads, gas office, there's links to articles on all the pages, so have a browse to widgets and click through the links. There's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks very much for doing that. There's video ads on most of the pages, so open up the content when you watch them, they'll close back up again. It's helping to pay for the website. And of course, the Christmas shop remains open. Now, I think we're under 2 weeks of Christmas, so if you've got any last minute Christmas shopping to do at Amazon, you're going to have to get on with it because we're getting close now. And talking to Chris, I'll be doing the Christmas update tonight. That's the 19th one, and we're using the GFS now. It's into the medium time frame model. So yeah, it's getting much closer. So any Christmas shopping to do at Amazon, all you have to do is click through the Amazon banners within Gaz Shop. It'll take you off to Amazon, where you just do your Christmas shopping as normal. Don't need to do anything different. Because you've gone from Gaz Service to Amazon, we get a revenue fee on the things that you've purchased. But a huge success again this year, so thanks so much to everybody that's done their Christmas shopping at Amazon via Gav's web visit. You have still got time to get those presents out to you, but it is getting much closer now. So we'll get on with the CFS 6 months look ahead. Just to say that I have explained that this is unreliable and the model is prone to chopping and changing. Interestingly, when the winter months started to appear with this model back in the summer, so around, I think it's around July, but December first started appearing. It was signaling a very mild Atlantic-driven December, and it hasn't deviated from that over the past few months. It's been a very consistent and clear signal from the model. And of course, that is how this December is panning out. It is turning out to be a very mild Atlantic-driven month. So it doesn't happen like this very often, but it looks like a pretty good performance so far from the CFS V2 for this winter, but it is early days. So let's get on with it then, and we'll start off, as I say, with the 700 bit of our height anomalies for the next 6 months, and we'll have a look at the corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies. So we start off with January, but just 1 month away, of course, so in theory this should be the more reliable part of the model output. So well, for January it's a case again, if you want cold weather, get behind the sofa, get behind the sage lawn, because again it's very grim for January. This is what the model is seeing. As you know, blue is extrapolating to low pressure, and orange, yellow, red extrapolating to high pressure. So it wants to place a big trough of low pressure around to the north and west of the UK. Then it's putting this ridge down to the south through the central part of the Mediterranean. So it means that the flow goes like that. We drag up very mild air out of the central part of the Atlantic. It's Atlantic driven, it's very westerly, southwesterly. There'll be a lot of heavy rain. We'll have a look at the temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with this in a second. But the signal is quite clear. It's been really consistent, this model, for many months. It's still doing what it's been doing all the way along, which is giving us a very mild Atlantic-driven pattern. And that January looks pretty grim if you want cold weather. And things get a bit worse actually in February, because this ridge extends up further from the central bowl of Mediterranean into central parts of Europe. The trough of low pressure is still there out to the north and west. So again, the flow goes like that. Mild air being dragged up from the Canary Islands, somewhere like that. That's very much shades of 97, 98, which was a really strong El Nino winter. Of course, got this strong El Nino now. It was a really strong El Nino winter, and we sort of had summer-like weather in May. You may remember it. In February, rather, it was more like May. Exceptionally mild month in February 1998. And it's that kind of pattern that the CFS model is going for again. For this update. It has been a clear signal from the model, as I say, for several months. So no deviation there for January and February, both looking very mild and Atlantic driven. For March, we find the ridge really extending up from the central part of Mediterranean, central parts of Europe. So it probably is a bit drier in March, probably quite mild as well. Again, the jet stream is probably doing something like that, although there might be a little bit of a trough within the 500 millibar flow, perhaps going a bit like that. So it could be a bit cooler actually in March, but it isn't a cold signal. There's no definitive sort of northern blocking there. Perhaps just a little bit cooler. I would suspect quite a bit drier as well. And then go through to April. This is 4 months away, so we are getting to the realm now of very much speculative. Don't take it too seriously, just for fun, all of that kind of thing. But for April, we find the ridge down to the south, and it's extending into the central part of the Atlantic. There's a trough around Iceland. We're probably sending the jet stream further south within the 700 millibar flow, with a bit of a trough developing there. So I think it's a cooler signal for April. Now remember, this of course is a warming time of year, so we're talking about anomalies here. But I think for the anomaly, we probably are going a little bit cooler as we get through into April. May is very similar to April in many respects, with the trough out to the west and the southwest. We've got the trough, the ridge I should say, out to west and southwest. We've got the trough around Iceland, the flow going like that. So again, April, May, I think they're cooler months really in terms of the anomalies anyway, and probably a little bit on the unsettled side as well. And then finally, June. This is as far as we can go with this update, 6 months away. So, of course, this is very, very much subject to change. But for June, and this is pretty grim, really, for the start of summer, because it's bringing a trough right down over top of the UK. We've got ridging through the northern Atlantic. The jet stream is more or less to the south of the country, going a bit like that. So that's a pretty grim looking chart for June. Actually, we start the summer on probably quite a cold note, or quite a cool note, and probably quite wet as well. So we have all this warmth in the winter months, we get through to the summer months, and it all flips around and it goes cooler. So these are how the temperature anomalies are stacking up for the next 6 months. January looks a very extreme month in terms of the mildness. So Scotland and Northern Ireland actually coming out near normal, and that's about the best that we get anywhere across Europe, really. There's no blue, there's no cold and average anomalies anywhere across Europe. Scotland and Northern Ireland close to average. Elsewhere, it's just a sea of red from sort of Portugal and the UK in the west over to Russia in the east. And usually even Greece and Turkey looking warm and average. Generally, when it's mild across northern Europe, it'll be cold down in the southeast, but not this time. Greece and Turkey even coming out significantly warmer than average as well. I've not seen many charts quite as mild as that. It's a very extreme looking mild chart. That, suffice to say, it would be pretty much a write-off for cold and snow across most parts of Europe, and the UK doesn't escape with that either. Can it really be that bad? I'm a bit dubious. Everywhere across Europe would be milder than average, but it has been a really consistent signal from the model for several months. February looking almost as bad, really. Again, sea of red from the west over towards the east. It does turn a bit colder for northern Scandinavia, though, so I know I have a few people watching from the Nordic regions, and that looks a bit better actually in February across Norway and Sweden. It goes a little bit cooler there, and also across Iceland, but the rest of Europe again signalled to be exceptionally mild. Excuse me, would be one of the mildest winters on record, I would have thought. if things pan out like this. Moving through to March, and again, very mild seen across most parts of Europe. The anomalies aren't quite as extreme as January and February, but even so, much of Europe being seen to have a milder than average month. The UK is seeing that anomaly easing off a little bit, so only a bit above average for England and Wales. We're near north of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Now we're going 4 months out with the temperature anomaly for April, so obviously this is much more unreliable. For April, we are looking at generally a little bit milder than average, but you notice the anomalies are cooling over this period through February, March, April. We're gradually losing the extremity of those warmer than average anomalies. Most of the UK and Ireland actually coming out near normal. Most of Europe still a bit above average, but not as extreme. What's happening, of course, here is that a trough is developing within the 500 millibar flow to the north, so it's sending the jet stream a bit further south into that sort of movement as we get through to April. Whereas earlier in the period, through January and February, the jet stream and the flow is doing something a bit like that, draining up all of that warmth from the central part of the Atlantic Ocean. May, 5 months away, so just for fun, but it's being seen to be near normal across most parts of Europe, so definitely there's a cooling trend there through the spring. In terms of the anomaly, remember it's a warming time of year, but the anomaly is going back to average. It's cooling as we go through the spring. And then we get through to June, and wouldn't you know it, most of France coming out colder than average. A little splodge of colder than average temperature anomalies there over UK as well. And it definitely is a cooling signal here as we're going through into the late spring and summer, with a trough developing within the flow and the jet stream going like that. Could be a trough stuck right over the top of the UK, so it would be a pretty grim start to the summer. Precipitation anomalies with this, so January looking exceptionally wet across virtually the whole of Europe. Remember, the jet stream again is going like that, so we're dragging up a lot of warm air from the Atlantic, but also bringing in deep areas of low pressure, so it's probably quite stormy and could be very wet, but very mild in many parts of Europe. February, it just goes on. It's not quite as wet in February as it is in January, but the scene is again quite clear for wetter than average month in February. Again, jet stream is responsible for this. Moving through to March, and for March the anomalies are easing. Still seem to be a bit wetter than average actually. I thought March could be a bit drier with that ridge extending up from the south, so I'm not quite sure about this. I would have thought March could be a drier month than this is signalling, particularly for central parts of Europe. But it's still a bit above average in terms of the rainfall for March. For April, again, a little bit above average, but not as wet as earlier in the year. That probably makes sense, actually, because the jet stream is coming south in April like that. So, yeah, it could be a bit Atlantic-driven and a bit wetter than average. For May, bit odd, we've got drier than average anomalies for Spain, but wetter than average further north and through central parts of Europe. But I think it's a bit drier as we get through to May. And then for June, well, this doesn't look very good, does it? We've got wetter than average anomalies there for the first month of summer across the UK, many parts of Europe as well. Again, the reason for that is that the trough is in probably across the UK and maybe extending into Central Europe as well, with the jet stream tracking to the south. Now, that's where you want the jet stream to be tracking in the winter months. To get cold weather, we don't get it in the winter, we get it in the summer months instead. But that's 6 months away, and it is very much subject to change, so don't be too concerned about that. I'm sure we'll see various options cropping up for the summer from this model. But going back to the nearer time frame, it remains a consistent signal from the CFS V2 for us to have a mild Atlantic-driven winter. We've started off quite well. We'll see how things pan out for January and February, but you have to say there's no sign of the CFS changing its idea. So we'll see how it goes. Remember, this evening we've got the Christmas update, so come back for that. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.